If you have multiple symptoms across multiple systems, such as cognitive, mood, physical, and nothing in conventional medicine has explained why, it's not one symptom. It's a constellation, and it tends to be chronic.
Welcome to Health Decoded, your number one source for real health information, with your hosts, Dr. Alessi and Matt Tack.
Health Decoded listeners, if you're dealing with bloating that just won't go away, no matter what you eat, no matter what you try, I need you to hear this. The bloating isn't the problem. It's a signal. Every external symptom you're experiencing, the discomfort, the fatigue, the frustration, has a root cause. And in my years of clinical practice, it almost always leads back to the gut. Nothing else in your body can fully heal until that foundation is restored. I built this framework from my own health journey. I was that patient, frustrated, dismissed, searching for answers. I took everything I learned, refined it through years of clinical testing, and have since helped hundreds of patients achieve complete relief from their symptoms. That became the Total Gut Reset, a step-by-step protocol with one goal: reset your gut in 6 months or less. If you're ready to learn exactly what's causing your symptoms and eliminate them for good, I'm hosting a free webinar where I walk you through the entire framework. The link is in the show notes. Go ahead and register, and I'll see you there. Welcome back to another episode of Health Decoded. I'm your host, Dr. Alessi. If you've ever felt like your brain was wrapped in wet concrete, foggy, slow, exhausted, inflamed, this episode is for you. I want to welcome you back to the Health Decoded podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alessi, and today we're diving deep into one of the most underdiagnosed, misunderstood, and frankly, underappreciated drivers of chronic inflammation that I see in my practice every single week. We're talking about neuroinflammation. This is inflammation of the brain and nervous system. Now, when most people hear the word inflammation, they think of maybe a swollen knee or a red and infected wound. And yes, that is inflammation. But what happens when that same inflammatory process is happening quietly, silently, inside your brain? That's what we're talking about today. And so here's a little roadmap of what we're going to go through today. First, what is neuroinflammation? Like what it actually is, the biology. I'm going to explain that. Second, the signs and symptoms. And I promise some of these are actually going to surprise you. And third, how we test for it. Because if you can measure it, you can manage it. And then the last segment we'll go through, the part that everyone wants, is what can you actually do about it? Actionable root cause strategies that work. So let's just get right into it. So basically, what exactly is neuroinflammation? At its most fundamental level, neuroinflammation is an immune response, specifically an immune response that occurs within the brain and central nervous system. Now, here's something most people don't know. Your brain has its own immune system. It has specialized immune cells called microglia. These are the brain's resident defenders. They constantly scan for threats, pathogens, damaged cells, toxic compounds, anything that shouldn't be there. When microglia detect a threat, they activate. They release inflammatory signals called cytokines. This is actually a brilliant and necessary survival mechanism. Acute inflammation, the short-term kind, is your body doing its job perfectly. Now, the problem is when that immune response doesn't turn off. Think of it like this. Imagine you set off a smoke alarm in your kitchen because you burned some toast. The alarm is doing exactly what it should. But now imagine that alarm just keeps going and going. Hours later, days later, you've cleaned up the toast, opened the windows, the smoke is gone, but that alarm is still blaring. That's chronic neuroinflammation. The alarm is stuck in the on position. And when your brain is in a sustained state of immune activation, it can't do other jobs well. Memory consolidation, mood regulation, executive function, energy metabolism, and hormone signaling, all of this gets compromised, put on the back burner. And so there's another layer to this that I really want you to understand. And that's what we've talked about in a previous episode a couple weeks back, is the blood-brain barrier. So your brain is protected by a highly selective barrier. This is a tight cellular lining that controls what gets in and stays out. Nutrients come in, waste products leave, pathogens and toxins are supposed to be prevented from entering. But here's the problem. When systemic inflammation is chronically elevated, meaning inflammation in the rest of the body, that barrier can actually become compromised. It becomes what some researchers are calling leaky, similar to the concept of leaky gut. And when that barrier breaks down, inflammatory compounds that have no business being near your neurons start crossing over. So, for example, gut inflammation can even drive brain inflammation. Mold toxins, infections, heavy metals, chronic stress hormones, all of these compromise the blood-brain barrier and light up that central nervous system immune response. This is exactly why we don't look at the brain just in isolation. The brain is downstream of everything else: gut health, immune health, toxic burden, hormones, sleep, stress, you name it. When you treat neuroinflammation effectively, you actually have to treat the whole system, because that's what created the inflammatory environment in the first place. So neuroinflammation is not solely a brain problem. It's a body problem that shows up in the brain. And so here's the frustrating reality about neuroinflammation. It doesn't show up the way most inflammatory conditions do. You can't see it. You can't feel a lump or swelling. You won't find it on a standard CBC panel. So instead, it shows up how you think, how you feel, how you move through the world. And because conventional medicine tends to compartmentalize these symptoms, sending you to a neurologist for one thing, a psychiatrist for another, an endocrinologist for the other, the underlying inflammatory driver never gets addressed. And so what I want to do is walk you through the symptom clusters that I see most frequently with my patients when it comes to neuroinflammation. And so the first cluster is cognitive. This is brain fog, is the biggest one we see. That thick, heavy, can't think straight feeling that doesn't go away even after getting a good night's sleep. Memory issues, particularly like short-term memory, difficulty forming new memories, the ability to retrieve words. You can't, what was I going to say? Those kind of things. Many of patients describe it as feeling like they're thinking through sludge, difficulty concentrating, slow processing speed, a mental fatigue that hits hard in the afternoon. All of these fit the neuroinflammatory picture. Now, the second one is more mood and emotional symptoms. This is where the science has gotten really interesting in the last decade. We know that depression and anxiety are not purely psychological. Inflammation is one of the primary drivers of both. When your microglia are activated and your brain is bathed in pro-inflammatory cytokines, neurotransmitter production will get disrupted. Serotonin, dopamine, GABA, all of these are downstream of your inflammatory state. So irritability, low mood, emotional reactivity, feeling flat or unmotivated, heightened anxiety, these aren't character flaws or just how you're wired. In many cases, they're symptoms of an inflamed nervous system. The third cluster, this is more physical. See this a lot. Headaches, particularly like pressure headaches or headaches that seem to come from nowhere. Sensitivity to light or sound. Fatigue that is disproportionate to your activity level. You're not just tired, but like bone deep exhausted. Sleep disturbances are huge here as well. Many patients with neuroinflammation have trouble either falling asleep or staying asleep because their nervous system is stuck in a low-grade threat response. And then the sleep deprivation makes the inflammation worse. It's a very vicious cycle. Things like tinnitus, dizziness, autonomic dysregulation, racing heart, temperature dysregulation. These can all be part of this picture as well. And so here's the pattern I want you to hold on to. If you have multiple symptoms across multiple systems, such as cognitive, mood, physical, and nothing in conventional medicine has explained why, neuroinflammation needs to be on the radar. It's not one symptom. It's a constellation, and it tends to be chronic, meaning weeks, months, sometimes years, with varying intensity. If any of that sounds familiar, don't panic. It's actionable, and we're going to get there. We're going to go through all of that today. And so before I go through what we use to assess neuroinflammation, I want to acknowledge something that I hear from patients constantly. And it's this, and I could probably count hundreds of times I've heard this. My doctor ran my labs and everything came back, quote unquote, normal. That's because standard panels are not designed to evaluate neuroinflammation. A basic metabolic panel or a standard CBC, these are not sensitive enough to pick up the kind of low-grade chronic inflammation that I'm talking about. That doesn't mean nothing's wrong. It means you need a more refined and detailed assessment. And so the first category of testing is what we call systemic inflammatory markers. These are blood tests that, while it's not brain specific, it's going to give us important signal about the overall inflammatory burden that your body is carrying. High sensitivity CRP or HSCRP. This is one of the most useful and underutilized markers in functional medicine. It's highly sensitive to low-grade chronic inflammation. We want to see this below a 1. Many patients with neuroinflammation, they come in at like a 3, a 5, or sometimes higher. Now, the next one, homocysteine. This is another critical marker. It's associated with both neuroinflammation and cardiovascular risk. Elevated homocysteine directly injures the blood-brain barrier. Ideally, I want to see this below an 8. Now, ferritin, ESR, fibrinogen, these are markers that can all provide additional information about the inflammatory state. And so we look at the whole picture, not just a single number. Now, when we want to go deeper, say there's more going on, we can look directly at cytokines. So we can test the inflammatory signaling molecules that I had mentioned earlier. Tests like TNF alpha, interleukin 6, interleukin 1 beta, all can help us characterize the nature and severity of the inflammatory response. These aren't always necessary for every patient, but for complex cases, particularly ones where patients have tried multiple interventions and nothing's gotten better, cytokine panels can be incredibly helpful. Because the gut-brain connection is so fundamental to neuroinflammation, gut testing is often a large part of our workup as well. A comprehensive stool analysis like our gut zoomer can reveal dysbiosis, intestinal permeability or leaky gut, and any infections, all of which will drive systemic and neuroinflammation. An organic acids test is a great test, gives us a window into mitochondrial function, neurotransmitter metabolism, and any yeast or bacterial overgrowth, which are all relevant to this neuroinflammatory picture as well. Then, of course, depending on the patient's history, we might also screen for mycotoxins, mold, heavy metals, Lyme, co-infections, reactive Epstein-Barr virus, or other chronic infections. These are some of the most common and often most missed drivers of neuroinflammation that I see. If you've ever had significant mold exposure or a tick bite, a major illness that you never quite recovered from, those are red flags that warrant a much deeper investigation than just a CBC. And so what makes functional medicine different isn't just the tests themselves, it's what we do with those results. Because I'm not just chasing a diagnosis. What good is a diagnosis without a plan? We're mapping a system. We want to understand, where is the inflammatory signal coming from? What are the upstream drivers? What does this specific patient's body need to downregulate that response and restore balance? That's the lens that we apply to every test that we run at Ascend Functional Health. Now, let's get into the next piece in this segment where everyone always wants to hear this part. What can I do, right? What are the action items I can take home? And so I want to start by saying something really important. Healing neuroinflammation is not about finding the one magic supplement or the silver bullet, as we call it, the one perfect diet. It's about systematically removing what's driving inflammation in the first place and rebuilding the environment your brain needs to heal. Everything I'm about to share is evidence-based, root cause focused, and so I broke it up into pillars, and these are just the main pillars that we focus on. Number one, diet. We have to remove the fuel from the fire. The single most powerful dietary shift for neuroinflammation is eliminating ultra-processed foods. Things like refined sugars, industrial seed oils, packaged foods. These are the three biggest dietary drivers of systemic inflammation. And so if you're still eating these regularly, no supplement is going to outdo that or overcome that. So you need to move toward a whole food, anti-inflammatory foundation. Things like fatty fish, colorful vegetables, leafy greens, olive oil, berries, nuts and seeds, quality proteins. A Mediterranean protocol or Mediterranean style diet. These patterns are well supported for reducing neuroinflammation and often what we utilize in our practice. For some patients, eliminating specific triggers, things like gluten, dairy, corn. This makes a significant difference, particularly if there's underlying gut permeability. We often use what we call a 30-day elimination protocol to identify these individual triggers. And also the power of polyphenols comes into play. So these are compounds that are that are found in deeply colored plants like blueberries, turmeric, green tea has a lot of them. Even, you're going to like this one, coffee has low levels of polyphenols. These modulate microglial activation and actually reduce central inflammatory signaling. Now, the second pillar, this is a non-negotiable for the brain, sleep. Your brain has a waste clearance system called the glymphatic system. It runs almost exclusively during deep, slow-wave sleep. This is when your brain flushes out inflammatory debris, misfolded proteins, metabolic waste. If you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, your glymphatic system is impaired, and then inflammation accumulates. So you need to prioritize sleep like it's medicine, because it really is. A consistent sleep and wake time, a dark, cool bedroom, no screens for at least 60 minutes before bed. Address sleep apnea if it's present. If you're snoring, this is something to look into. This is often a major and often missed driver of neuroinflammation. For patients who struggle with sleep, and particularly sleep quality, you can use something like magnesium glycinate before bed. This is going to help with cortisol patterns and gut health, all of which disrupt sleep architecture. Now, the third one, third pillar here, very important, stress and nervous system regulation. Chronic psychological stress drives neuroinflammation through multiple pathways. It elevates cortisol, which compromises the blood-brain barrier. It activates the HPA axis, which keeps the immune system in a pro-inflammatory state. And it suppresses the parasympathetic nervous system, keeping your body locked in sympathetic overdrive. This is not just stress. The physiological consequences of chronic stress on brain tissue are real and very measurable. Tools that have strong evidence for downregulating the nervous system. Here we go. Breath work, specifically extended exhale breathing. So 4 count in, 6 to 8 counts out. This stimulates the vagus nerve and shifts you into that parasympathetic mode within minutes. Daily meditation, even just 10 minutes, has measurable effects on inflammatory cytokine levels. Cold exposure. Everybody knows the craze of cold plunging. So things like forest bathing, we call like time in nature. All of these activate anti-inflammatory pathways within the body and brain. For many patients, nervous system regulation is the missing piece. You can eat perfectly, you can take all the right supplements, you can exercise, but if your nervous system is chronically dysregulated, you will not heal. And so that's a massive piece of how we operate at Ascend Functional Health, and one of the things that gets overlooked often in conventional medicine. Now, pillar number 4, targeted supplementation. So let me walk through a few supplements with the strongest evidence specifically for neuroinflammation in this case. And just a quick disclaimer before this. None of this is me telling you to take these. None of this is me giving you dosages. You make sure, based on your blood work, that you know what's right for you. That's just the way to approach things like this. Now, let's get into it. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA, are anti-inflammatory at the neurological level. They modulate that microglial activation. They reduce cytokine production and support the structural integrity of neurons. So I recommend high quality, third-party tested fish oil with at least 2 grams combined EPA and DHA. Curcumin, this is a fantastic one, particularly when paired with omega-3s. This is the active compound found in turmeric. It's one of the most studied natural inhibitors of NF-kappa beta, which is a master switch for inflammatory gene expression in the brain. Now, the catch, standard curcumin has poor bioavailability. It's hard for your body to absorb. So you want to look for phospholipid-bound formulations, often combined with black pepper extract. This makes a significant difference in efficacy. And the products that we use at Ascend always have these high levels of effectiveness. The next one, N-acetylcysteine. This is a precursor to glutathione, which is your brain's most potent endogenous antioxidant. Oxidative stress and neuroinflammation go hand in hand. And the NAC directly supports the brain's capacity to buffer inflammatory damage. Other supplements worth discussing, lion's mane mushroom, particularly for the neuroregenerative piece, is fantastic. Resveratrol is another very powerful and potent antioxidant. And magnesium, particularly magnesium threonate, which crosses the blood-brain barrier very effectively. Now, supplementation is not the only fix, should always be individualized. What works powerfully for one person may not for another, might even be counterproductive. And this is based on specific biochemistry and your drivers of inflammation. The fifth pillar, exercise. This is probably the most underutilized anti-inflammatory tool. Exercise is a genuine pharmacological intervention for neuroinflammation. It's going to increase BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotropic factor. This is what promotes neuronal health and actually heals the brain and nervous system. It reduces that microglial overactivation, and it improves lymphatic flow. It's going to regulate cortisol, enhance your mitochondrial function in the neurons. But here's where I need to insert a critical caveat, okay? For patients with significant neuroinflammation, particularly those with maybe mold, chronic infections, or a post-viral illness, high-intensity exercise can actually temporarily worsen your symptoms by spiking inflammation further, right? Exercise is somewhat of a stress on the body. So you want to start with low intensity, consistent movement, things like walking outside, swimming, maybe gentle cycling or yoga. Build your tolerance. The goal is to get the anti-inflammatory benefits of movement without triggering a flare. So 15 to 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise most days is a meaningful target for patients in that position. And then the pillar number 6, and this is often something we support patients with, is detox and drainage. And so if toxins are driving neuroinflammation, and in a significant percentage of patients they are, reducing that toxic burden isn't an option. It's the foundation, and it's often the starting point. Because supporting your body's drainage pathways like the liver, your lymphatic system, your kidneys, and your colon, these need to be moving effectively before you begin any deeper type of protocol. Or you could risk redistributing or pushing toxins back into circulation rather than clearing them. And so for liver support, like ongoing, not like strategically, but just, daily, cruciferous vegetables, getting adequate protein, and then targeted support with things like NAC we talked about, and milk thistle, which is an herb. These help for supporting the liver's functions in phase 1 and phase 2 detox. And if you want more detox-focused content, go back a few weeks to an episode that we did about detox where I broke all of this down. For lymphatic flow, movement, dry brushing, hydration, sauna therapy, traditional or infrared, very strong evidence supporting the use of sauna for toxin elimination, particularly for fat-soluble compounds like mycotoxins and molds and heavy metals. Start low and slow, 15 to 20 minutes, and increase maybe 2 to 3 times per week. The next thing is like binder therapy. Now, when it comes to binders, always do this under the supervision of a professional, because using things like activated charcoal, modified citrus pectin, or even prescription binders like cholestyramine in severe cases, this can help prevent that reabsorption of toxins as they're mobilized. However, if done wrong, can increase toxic load. So identifying and removing the source of exposure is always step one. Treating mold toxicity while still living in a moldy building is kind of like bailing out of a sinking boat without patching the hole, right? You have to always find out and remove number one. So let's summarize. Let's bring all of this together. Thank you for sticking with me through this. I hope that a lot of this was very valuable and can be applied today. Neuroinflammation is real. It's measurable. It's treatable, which is great. But it sits at the root of a lot of chronic conditions that we see. It's driven by upstream factors like gut dysfunction, toxins, infections, chronic stress, poor sleep, but it responds to upstream interventions. And so the 6 pillars we covered today: anti-inflammatory nutrition, optimized sleep, nervous system regulation, targeted supplementation, strategic exercise, and drainage and detox support. It's not a random list of things to try. Each one of these addresses a specific mechanism in the neuroinflammatory cascade. And so if you took nothing else from today, I want you to take this. Your brain has a remarkable capacity to heal when you give it the right environment. Neuroplasticity is real. Microglial resolution is real. Your biology is working. It's on your side. And so the goal with us at Ascend Functional Health is never to manage your symptoms indefinitely. The goal is to find the root cause, remove it, and rebuild so you can feel like yourself again. And so if you're a current patient with us and this episode resonated with you, mention it to us at your next appointment. We can chat more about this. If you're not a patient and this hit home for you or maybe someone you know, please reach out to us. You can go to ascendfunctionalhealth.com. We can always discuss lab testing. Listeners of the podcast are always going to get discounts on all kinds of lab tests and supplementation. You also get a special gift when you reach out to us. If this was beneficial or helpful, please share it. That helps us. We don't turn a profit from this. This is free, just valuable information. If it's helpful, we just ask that you share it with someone who might need to hear it. That's how we grow. That's how we help more people become conscious of these kind of things and create a healthier community all around. So I thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Dr. Alessi, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in to Health Decoded, where we break down the truth about all things health and empower you to take charge of your well-being. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. For more resources and personalized support, visit us at alessifunctionalhealth.com and sign up for our newsletter. To hear your questions answered live on the show, send them to ask@alessifxhealth.com. That's ask@alessifxhealth.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay empowered, and remember, your health is in your hands.